I'm your host, Lynn Demmons, and you're listening to Financial Confidence. We thank you so much for joining us for the show today. We are so super excited to have a guest with us in the broadcasting room today. However, before I get to her, I definitely want to remind you of the guiding principle for this show, which is Matthew 6:33. But seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you. Yes, we here at Financial Confidence, we're talking about make your money, keep your money, and grow your money so that you can do the things that you're called to do. But we also ask that you pray over your money. So if you will, bow your heads with me and commit this simple prayer to memory as you continue to grow and learn what it is that you truly need to do with your money to continue to enhance the kingdom. If you'll bow with me, Lord, help us to value the things in this world that are really valuable. That's our relationships with you, our lives, and our families. Help make us responsible stewards of your financial resources, and let us trust your holy word for the eternal glory. In your son, Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
All right, guys. Well, as I mentioned to you, I am super excited to have Miss Ebony Riggins in the podcasting room with us today. So, Ebony, how are you?
I'm doing so wonderful. Thank you so much for inviting me here today.
Oh, well, it's a pleasure to have you here, guys. And before we get started, I just want to read a little bit of her bio so you have an idea of who she is. And she's going to be our expert today as we talk about, guys, what love's got to do with it. What's love got to do with it? Yes, no, I'm not talking about Tina Turner. We're talking about how to create a healthy relationship with money in your marriages. So in looking at Ebony, she's a relationship coach, a wife, a mother, #1 best-selling author, host of Soulful Marriage Conversations podcast. She's the founder of the 90-Day Marriage Plan, and she's hosted Marriages That Matters Facebook Live. So yeah, she's done a lot, guys. So excited to have you here. She's also contributed to the Encouraging Dads Project, Rejoicing Hope, and Digital Romance. She inspires spiritual, introverted, entrepreneurial married women, that's a mouthful, right? To make power choices to connect deeply with themselves and their partners to help build, save, and restore marriages. All right, Ebony, I'm ready to have this conversation with you today. So just give us a little bit more detail. I know I've shared your bio, but how did you get started in this arena?
Well, the way I got started in this arena was when I was very young, at the age of 5. You know, my mother and my father separated when I was that age. And then moving forward, I always wanted to have a relationship with my father. And one of the biggest things that I noticed that I had was I always had this yearning desire for family. And as I began to get older, I felt like, why are people separating? Why are relationships broken? Why are families separated? Because I was a victim of that as well. But I began to just study patterns and behaviors of people in their relationships. And I was like, God, because my belief is that I felt like if you was in a relationship with someone, that your relationship was built to last, that person doesn't supposed to separate, they supposed to stay together. So I just formed that belief early on that you are bonded together forever, to death do you part.
Right.
And I began to just mimic, follow the people that were in my lives, my relatives, my uncles, my aunts, my grandparents. And I just looked at their relationships and I saw how they stayed together and they made marriage work. And one of the biggest things that was the driver for that was my grandmother, because of the way she carried herself in her home, the way she handled her children, the things that I saw her do, but I did not ever see conflict in the home with them two. I didn't see conflict in the home with my grandparents, my other grandparents on my mother's side. And so the thing about it was that I was like, this is the way it's supposed to be. I saw her as a very honorable woman. And I began to mimic that. I began to mimic even my aunts. She was a working mom, so she went to work. She came home, took care of her family, fixed dinner and things of that nature. So I just began to pick up the pieces. And then I got older, I desired my own family. And through my own personal experience of just doing research and studying and observing other people, I began to create my own ideals and identity about what the family dynamic's supposed to look like. And by the time I was in high school, I started helping other individuals, which started with men that were in prison. And they would call me because they were having challenges about the relationship, of course, that they had with themselves while they were in prison. And I began to just share advice. And then it went from, just having those conversations to ministry in the prison. I would work through a church ministry, and I would go out and just have group meetings with women, just helping them develop their relationships. So it just went on and on from there. And as I got older, I got married, and I began to experience my own personal challenges with relationships. And I took those things and I just put it all together, and I figured out what really works for me, how I was able to save my marriage, how I was able to change some of the trajectories that we were experiencing. And it just really worked for me. And from there, it's been uphill from there. I just have a powerful, deep compassion for marriages. I believe that I want to see people stay together and make it work. And be happy.
Absolutely. Happiness is key.
Yes.
You are fortunate to have had, those, you mentioned your grandmother, you mentioned your aunties, you were fortunate to have those other individuals, those other relationships in your family, because not everyone has that.
Yes.
So from having that and developing this, so now what do you do today to help people in their relationships?
What I do is I do one-to-one conversations. I do group meetings. I facilitate groups. I also work within the church ministry where we actually invite people to our homes. And then also I do workshops. I do special projects as far as I'm working on a project right now. It's called the Red Rose Project, and it's to help congregate women together to help build, save, and restore their marriages. So that's what I'm all about. But wherever I can fit in, that's what I'll do. I work within ministries. I will go one-to-one. I will do group things. So that's how I actually work with people.
Awesome. I love that. Build, save, restore.
Yes.
Yes, that speaks volumes. So, because you're dealing with America's #1 financial rebound coach, we want to talk about some of those financial conditions. So there are 3 conditions that individuals have towards money that create conflict in marriages. Do you care to share more about what those 3 conflicts are and how people should address those?
Definitely. So when we look at money, we have to go back to the root. We have to go back to the root of where we came from, what we experienced as a child, all the way up to our adulthood. And these are where some of those conditions start. And if we don't go back to the root of those things and deal with those and become familiar with where we came from, we won't really be able to understand how we think, believe, and feel about money. And so you got to look at it. You have 2 individual partners, 2 different people in a relationship with 2 different types of conditions, right?
Yeah.
So, and you may not even be aware of, oh my God, this is happening, but this is why you need to be enlightened about how you see, feel, think, and all of these things about money, because it really does affect your relationship. So one of the first things I would say is the positives and the negative aspects that you have of an understanding about money. So what is that? What the positive and the negative aspect is, let's go back to when you were a child. Mm-hmm. How did you experience money in your household? Did you see money as being an issue where you and your parents were always arguing, fussing, fighting? Did you see it as a stressor where money was hard to come by? That's what you heard. Did you experience where there was an abundance of money? Did you experience where money was easily given and it was, charitable? Did you see where you always felt like you had wonderful experiences as a child when it came to money? So those are some of the positive and the negative aspects. And that is a condition that you have as a child all the way up to adulthood. Now, somewhere in there, it may have changed when you became an adult, but you have to look at the big picture. What are your aspects and understanding of money? The second one is, what does money really represent to you? Because what we fail to realize is how money is represented to you is truly how you'll show up with spending your money.
Okay.
So let's talk about these. It's 4 of them. One of them is status. Money is like status. So what does status look like? Status is going to be the things that you have, materialistic things, your brand names, the vehicle that you drive, the clothes you wear, what house you live in, things to that nature, okay? The next one is security. Security, if money represents security, what are you going to do? You're going to look for saving. And also you're going to look for that job that pays you well. You're going to be looking for things to that nature. So another one is power. What is power when it comes to money? A representation of power is control. You will utilize your money to control people and things and opportunities for yourself. So we have the final one is love. If money represents love, you will see people operating where they are charitable, they're giving, they're allowing their family to experience abundance of maybe where they give them great experiences, but they also show love through service in providing opportunity for other people. So you'll see that. And if you really, truly want to know how you can find these things, I'm going to show you how you can do it. But those are some of the conditions that people have when it comes to money. Those 4 things right there are some things that you really, really need to look at. But also, we're going to talk about the relationship that you have with money. So when we talk about the relationship that you have to money, what is your behavior with your money? So we talked about the status and all that, right. Those things, the status, the love and all that. But then there also is the relationship you have to money. So some people can have a relationship where they have this skepticism of it's not enough, it go back to the conditions, right? It's not enough, or I don't have what I want, and I'm spending because I'm trying to get, because that may be a pattern from the past where I didn't have enough as a child. I didn't receive enough, so I want to collect all these things. So you see me spending my money more than saving my money, okay? So where do we find out? I want to move forward to, after you have discovered the conditions, where do you go to find out what you treasure, what is money represented to you, and then what is your behavior with the money? So I say your treasure is in your bank account. Your treasure is in your bank account. If you go back to looking at your activities and your expenditures, you will really be able to find out what money represents to you. You'll be able to find out your behavior with money. And you'll also be able to determine your relationship with money. And I think that is a cool thing for individuals that are married, and especially ones that have been married for a long time and you've never done this before. You become familiar with the ways of how you handle money, and you're not really having a consistency or I'm gonna say a healthy habit of how you actually deal with your money. And I think if we go back and we start saying, well, let's create a healthy habit with our money, let's just go back first and start looking at how we have spent it, what our behaviors are, things to that nature. So those are the conditions that I think that actually creates where the problem is going to start,
Right, absolutely. And I wholeheartedly agree with something that you started out saying. One of the things that we commonly hear is, you show me your 5. If you have 5 broke friends, then chances are you're the 6th, right? Because birds of a feather flock together. We see these conditions and we tend to attracts like, right?
Yeah, that's true.
In many cases. So that's very true, that you have to look at those behaviors and how you're actually utilizing those opportunities. And I think those are valid points that you bring to the table, because my husband and I, we've been married for 20 plus years now, okay? And it wasn't always the way that it is today.
Yeah.
It was a time where we, we had separate bank accounts where we did everything separately. And it wasn't until we came to realization to say, hey, wait a minute.
Yeah.
We're bringing children into this union, and we don't want them to develop those same habits that we've had in the past. So we had to take a look at what have we been doing with our money? Where were those things that were of interest to us? What were our financial priorities at that time? Because now they must change.
Exactly.
So absolutely, I agree wholeheartedly with those conditions. You have to know where you are before you can decide that you're going to go somewhere, right?
Yes, that's right.
And decide what that plan is. So, how do individuals determine what they treasure, what money represents to them, and their relationship with money? So how would they go about doing this? Is this something you recommend? You would say you do a 30-day challenge and track your expenses, or would you say do something completely different?
So I can tell you what I did personally.
Sure.
I wrote down all of my expenses, kept a track. Like you said, keep a list of what you're spending every single day, every time you swipe your card, every time you do anything with your money.
Right.
And then consistently look back, and I think you can do it for 30 days. You can just look at your bank account and look at, make a list. I call your activities, because there are different things that you're doing in your account. That doesn't mean that you're necessarily spending your money on, unnecessary expenses or making unnecessary purchases.
Right.
But I say that your activities are you depositing money into another account? Are you moving the money to another account? Are you moving the money into like an investment, like an investment account? So look at those activities. Are you, maybe you're cash apping the money somewhere, you're sending it somewhere else. Just figure out what are those activities that you're doing, and then look at your expenditures. Your expenditures are, where are you spending your money? Are you paying bills? Or are you buying clothes and, those type of things? Are you really, really sending your money somewhere where it's giving? You will find out that in your expenditures. Are you giving it to the church? Are you paying your tithes? Or are you giving it to a charitable organization? What are you spending your money? So when you begin to look at all of these things, you're listing out every day. Oh, I go to, let's see, what's the Starbucks every day. I'm going to Starbucks every day. And then you see those activities for 30 days. You see that you go to Starbucks 2 and 3 times a day maybe. And then you see on your expenditures, oh, I go to the mall and I've bought clothes. And then you may see in there in a 30-day period, maybe 1 or 2 times where you've actually given to a charitable organization or something like that. So then when you look at it, what are you treasuring? What does money represent to you? So it just depends on what your activities are. So for that person that they like coffee, they like buying clothes, then what does money represent? You'll be able to find it there just looking at your activity. And then the behavior, what do you find? Oh, they don't necessarily save their money, because I don't see where they're saving. I'm not really seeing them being consistent in paying bills, because you have some bills that are consistently reoccurring every month. So look at your timelines, look at your dates, at how often are you paying these particular bills and what time frame are you paying it. So if 1 month you pay your light bill on the 1st and then the next month is like on the 25th, there's a big gap there. And so you just keep record of how often you're doing things and you're being consistent. That will determine your behavior. I mean, me and my husband, we actually had to reevaluate some things, because we definitely saw that there was a pattern where one was spending more and one was spending less, and one was behind a little bit on things, like not being consistent. And so when you see that happening, you realize that, okay, there is a issue with how we are seeing things and our consistency, and that is what creates conflict in the relationship when you're trying to keep and manage your money, stay on a budget, things to that nature. And so if you don't really have an understanding of how you see and view your money, you will find yourself in conflict in your marriage, because there are going to be times when you are going to, maybe if you're not keeping record, you may have some activities that are not, there may be unusual, and it's not understood that this is supposed to be happening, right?
Right.
We didn't agree on these things. You spent much money in Starbucks this month, you know? So you just have to really look at those things. And I think that that's a conversation piece that individuals need to have on a consistent basis. And I would say, based on if you get paid weekly or if you get paid bi-weekly, let's have some weekly conversations. If you get paid weekly, if you get paid bi-weekly, let's have some bi-weekly conversations, because you have to manage your money based on how you get paid, right?
Absolutely. So, you know, that's very important. And that was one of the questions that I wanted to ask. So how do you go about doing that? You're the saver, your spouse is the spender. How do you have that courageous conversations? Because oftentimes, like you said, that creates conflict in the marriage. So how would one who says, wait a minute, I'm in that position now, what would you suggest or recommend that they do? Are there any steps or that you suggest that they take to, you know, start to have that? Because oftentimes they may say, well, I don't know about setting up a weekly meeting with him to talk about my money because he's so-and-so, you know? So
Yeah.
how do you help couples to address those types of issues? How do we get to that point?
Okay, so I can totally relate here. I'm being very vulnerable because you all may not know, the listeners may not know that my husband lost his mom. It's almost been 2 years, not quite though. And when he lost his mom, he all of a sudden did a 360 and he started spending. So it was like every day, new packages coming in the door. And he's still doing it today. So we had to have a reevaluation, and we had the money talk. We had to have a conversation about, look, we have to get a hold of, you know, saving. And then also not spending out on unnecessary things, because it was like, hey, I want to buy this. And I was like, hold up, wait a minute, you know? And so we had to just really go back and look at some of the ways that we, you know, the ideas that we had from the beginning, what we wanted to do. First of all, is creating a budget. So how can we effectively do these things? So I want to, before I do that, is it okay if I tell you the 5 factors that create problems?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. So then I'll tell you the do's and the don'ts to create and overcome that. Okay. So one of the ways that we can really have money conversations, of course, is that we need to be able to do a few steps. And I think number one is creating a budget. Willingness to participate, of course, and then, you know, really going back and pulling your bank accounts. Okay, so I think you're going to need your bank accounts when you sit down. You're going to need to be able to be ready to budget, and you're going to be willing, and you both need to be willing to sit down and have a conversation together. It's not going to work by you letting your partner do it on their own. Both of you need to be willing and committed to do the work. But some of the times we have issues when we're trying to do this. Money is a hard conversation. And some of the things that people end up doing is they have a lack of effective communication. That's one of the contributing factors to money problems, is there's not enough effective communication. You may think that you're communicating, but you're not communicating about the right things. There are things that you need to take into consideration, and there are ways that you need to present problems when it comes to money. The second thing is not fighting fair. We're going to have these conversations, and sometimes we're going to disagree. We're going to fight about it, but we need to fight fair. We don't need to do the blaming game. We don't need to demise one another. We need to really just say, okay, you know what? I get it. We're not perfect, right? So take a look at your weaknesses and your strengths. Each one of the partners in the relationship, one has a weakness, one has a strength. You combine them two, and you complement each other with your issues. So if your partner has a spending issue, and the other partner is a more disciplined person, you take that strength and you utilize that strength. And this is something I had to tell my husband. Utilize the person that has the weakness. Take your strength and help support that issue by using your strength. And that way you can mold it together and make it work, right?
Right.
Another issue is not being consistent and not being disciplined. So you have, we want to create these budgets, we want to save, we want to plan this future, but no one wants to be consistent and disciplined in the issue. What do? I thought you was handling that, right? So we end up with these same problems over and over again. They all just really kind of join together. They all interconnected there. You're not willing to compromise is another one. If you're not willing to compromise, what do you think you're going to get? All of these things are really not having the right form of communication, not taking the right actions. Then you're not willing to plan, to take the time to plan successfully,
right?
Plan, discuss, and manage the finances. That's that conversation of, okay, I got the bank book, I got our expenditures, what we have, I got the budget ready to be set. I need you to come on and let's do this together. But they're not willing to make the necessary changes to do it. One wants to hold the other accountable. One doesn't want to play the part. One of them wants to bring what they want to bring to the table. I had a client that I was having a money conversation with, and one of her biggest challenges that she had was that her husband, when it was time to pay the bills, she was so used to paying all the bills and doing all the work that she said when it was time to pay the bills, he would bring her what he thought she needed. And I said, now, where did he get that idea that it was okay if the house note is $500 and he only brings you $3? I said, where did he get the idea that that was enough when he has been shown, how much this bill is? She said she didn't understand. She said she would show him the budget, what it was that they had to pay and how much it was, but he would still bring her only what he thought was necessary. So you have to look at why in his mind did he feel that way? Was he so driven to say, this is all we need? So one of the things that I say that's part of you sitting down together and discussing and managing your finances, because one of the key things was in her situation is she was so used to doing everything. And when you begin to do everything, they begin to miss it in action, and you end up holding all the weight, pulling all the weight, things like that can easily happen. So that's why I say that we all need to be consistent as far as reviewing our finances on a consistent basis. So if we want to talk about the ways that you can address these issues and overcome them, there's some do's and some don'ts.
Okay. That's what we want, the do's, right?
I'm going to give you the don'ts first, and then I'm going to give you the do's.
Sure.
So the first thing is that you do not want to condemn your partner. You do not want to condemn your partner because you are not perfect and he's not perfect. So you want to make sure that you don't condemn them. You don't want to hold them into contempt. Contempt can be very, very damaging when it comes to money. It really can be in a place where it practically can ruin a marriage, contempt. And that's why a lot of people in relationships, their marriages are ending not only because of all the other things that you would think it is. A lot of it comes down to the financial piece. And it's because they have been damaged so much. The stonewalling is another one. You're very evasive and you refuse to cooperate. Come on now.
Yes.
You know?
You helping somebody.
Okay. I mean, the next one is to be defensive. You got to lay down your walls. Do not be defensive when it comes to a relationship, because how many people, and I have experienced this myself, and I've been guilty of this, that when it comes to that money conversation, it's tough at the moment. You get quickly to be on the defensive.
Of course. Because
it's a hurtful conversation, because money is not just about money. Money is about a deeper thing, about a relationship. That's why I said go back to those conditions. You'll find out a lot of issues. And then there's the avoidance piece. We don't want to talk about money at all. We just rather not even address the issues. We rather just avoid it. And guess what happens? Everything messes up when we do those things. Yeah. You get behind on your bills. You get in debt. You got one partner that's just pulling all the weight and they're stressed out. and then nothing's working, right?
Right.
So the do's of those things is that you got to create positive form communication patterns, form a positive form of communication. And some of those things that it looks like is that you could ask for 5-minute couch time. I like to say the 5-minute couch time because whether you think 5 minutes is long enough, 5 minutes can change your life.
Right.
Because when you're not used to having those conversations and you start saying, I'm giving me and my partner 5 minutes on the couch to discuss the top of mind issue, you can get a lot accomplished from a day-to-day things, because what do we normally do? We argue about things that we haven't yet taken care of. So if you start saying, you know what, on a daily basis, we're going to have 5-minute conversations where we just talk about what is the most important thing that we need to discuss about money. That can be one of those things. Mm-hmm. What is it that we need to take care of? What is the one thing that's challenging us about our money, right? Honey, I think you spend too much. I think you spend way too much, or our light bill is too high. Can we come up with a plan to eliminate some of these costs? 5 minutes. The next one is showing each other appreciation. I think that a way to have a healthy relationship with your partner when it comes to money is showing some appreciation for what they are giving, right, for what you both are giving in the relationship. Because you better believe it or not, I don't believe no one truly wants to be in a debt situation. I think it's all about mindset.
Absolutely.
I think that if you don't work on those conditions and you don't get familiar and get down deep to the root, you'll be stuck and you won't know how to come out of the things that you're experiencing as far as the debt and all that. So I think that if you have a partner that can support you, if you learn to support each other, show appreciation for what you do, and like I said, go back to those the strengths and the weaknesses, then you can mend these issues and really resolve the problems that you're having. The next one, yeah.
Can I stop you really quickly right there, because you hit on the point that I really want to drive home, and that's the mindset issue. Mm-hmm. Because if we look at money as a tool, right, as opposed to the way that we look at money, it can completely change the trajectory. So how does one deal with that mindset if you do have one partner that has a true financial psychology around their money? They're geared towards saving, budgeting, and investing, and the other partner is not. All they're geared towards is spending. So how do the two now become one and truly have be of the same mindset, right, as far as their money is concerned, to now move to the next level? Because we've grown up all of our lives hearing, the borrower is servant to the lender. We've heard that, right?
Yeah.
When we go in church, we've heard even the ant stores up for the winter, right?
Yeah.
We've heard all of these biblically based scriptures. But in hindsight, it's difficult for people to make the transition, right? Because of all the societal pressures. Is what I call it, the societal pressures, those things that we get from the outside, that peer pressure, if you will, to look a certain way or to be a certain way. So how do people start to transition? How do couples start to transition as far as that mindset piece is concerned?
I think the first thing you have to do is go back to your story. Look at the history, the story that you have behind money. What did it create? What are the fears? What are the behaviors and the limitations that you have? I think if you look at that, and then you start looking at the biblical principles, that what money stands for, how God sees money, and what money really truly supposed to be represented in the lives of couples. And because when you go back to the story of Adam and Eve, remember how God said he made man. Before Adam and Eve, he made man and woman, and he said, subdue the earth and multiply, take ownership of it. So I think that the first thing we have to do is understand that we were gifted with something wonderful, and we have to be great. What's the word? We have to be great stewards over what we have. And the only way you can begin to become a great steward is that you got to understand where your downfalls are, where your pits are, and then build yourself up with the faith principles. And that was one of the next things that I was going to share is about your spiritual practice, create a spiritual practice with your money. I mean, some people do the envelope system, and I know that years ago when I first was a babe in church, and my pastor said, baby, you get your white envelopes out and you put your tithes in the envelope and you put all your bills in an envelope and put the name of the bills on it. And she's saying, watch God do it. You know, she used to tell me that. But, you know, she said, always pray over your money and always have a scripture represented for your money. So I think that we have to build our faith, but we also have to look at where we came from, but we also have to move forward into the spiritual practice and understanding of how God sees and views money. And then also be willing to work as a team with your partner. If you are that partner that has that strength, you come in with your partner and you pray with your partner. You hold your partner's hand and you show your partner the way along with you so they can build those strengths. You build them up as you have been built up in some form or fashion, whether it was your mother, your father, those practices were imprinted in you from someone else. You can help imprint those same practices into your partner.
Absolutely. I love that. That's good. That's good.
Yeah.
So the one other thing that I wanted to ask you are there any additional ways that you want to add to address and overcome money conflicts? Whether that's in a marriage or even for that person, they haven't married yet. They're thinking about getting married, or they're about to take that leap. So what are some things that they should consider before moving forward, or even if they're newlyweds?
Yeah, I think moving forward, before they make that decision, I think they need to be totally vulnerable. And they need to get a clear understanding of their partner's view of money, and also be willing to share what they have as far as their debt. If you have debt, if you have some issues handling money, I think that they need to be completely honest with their partner and share the history behind where they come from when it came to money, so that they can be able to see clearly of what they will be together, you know?
Right.
What would they be together? I mean, are you a saver? Tell your partner, hey, I believe in saving. I'm a spender. I have an issue with paying bills. You know, I think all of those things go hand in hand. And I think the more honest you can be up front, the better opportunity and the choice that you allow your partner to be able to work from.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, Ebony, we appreciate you so much for joining us here at Financial Confidence. Can you tell us where to find you? Are you on social media? How can people connect with you if they would like to have additional conversations with you?
Sure. They can go to my website at ebonyriggins.com. So they can go to Facebook. I have a page that's a relationship coach, Ebony Riggins at Relationship Coach. They can find me there. They can find me on Instagram. So those are the two places. Facebook and Instagram are my favorite little social media channels. But if you would like to connect with me to have a conversation, you can go to bit.ly/reclaim your marriage.
All right, guys, you heard that, right? Bit.ly reclaim your marriage. I love it. Well, thank you so much. This has been a pleasure to have you in the studio today. I think we need to have you back because there's some more things that we need to talk about, some more things that we need to get through. This has been an awesome opportunity to have the conversation with you.
I enjoyed it too.
Yes, thank you. Guys, go over and find her on Facebook and Instagram and follow her. Also check out her website, ebonyriggins.com. Guys, thank you so much for joining us for this episode of Financial Confidence. This is WYTV7 Christian Broadcasters Network. Over here, over there, and just about everywhere. Let's just be real about that. We thank you so much for joining us because we're helping you to make your money, keep your money, and grow your money, utilizing those biblical principles so you can build generational wealth. All right, guys, until next time, we'll see you later.